Welcome to Sacred Stories. I am your host, Reverend Patricia Brooks, and today we have sound healer, spiritual guide, and soul intuitive Aleya Dao. Welcome, Aleya, to Sacred Stories.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be speaking with you. So, spiritual guide, soul intuitive, and sound healer. Tell us a little bit more about who Aleya Dao is, please.
At a very early age, I was intrigued with healing and alternative medicine, and then in my early 20s, became a massage therapist, and then went on and got my master's in Oriental medicine. And then after being in private practice for about 10 years, I had an enlightenment experience when I was actually lying on a sound table, which is a massage table filled with water with speakers. And in that 30 seconds of that enlightenment experience, I started perceiving other realms and hearing what I call the angelic choir. And so that piece around being a sound healer and recognizing the power sound has on our consciousness, our bodies, our attitudes, our beliefs, how we move in the world, it deeply impacted me. And then I ended up bringing that aspect, as well as my awareness of these other realms, into my private practice and my personal life.
So I've never heard of a sound table. I thought I've had just about every experience on a table you could have. I've heard of all kinds of massage tables, crystal tables. I've never heard of a sound table. That sounds incredible.
It is pretty amazing, and I actually then a couple years later built my own sound table. So it's got this water bladder, and it's hooked up to an amp and a microphone, and I tone, basically singing, into the mic, which then vibrates the water and vibrates the body that is lying on the water and the energy fields. And so it's a really powerful form of healing, shifting blocks, clearing blockages, clearing pain, and bringing in higher vibrational ways of being.
I have to experience this. I'm in absolute awe. My jaw has dropped. Listeners, I'm sure you're with me. Am I the only person who's never heard of a sound table? That sounds incredible. No pun intended.
It's not that well known. It really isn't. And I'm actually working on building a second sound table that's even more potent and powerful with crystals embedded and a little bit more powerful speakers. So it's an exciting process to keep unraveling the creative current of sound. And with that, I love being in the recording studio and creating music. I think I have almost like 8 albums now, and a few musicians that lay down beautiful beds of music for me to tone upon.
That's absolutely amazing. So you're not in South Florida, because where are you? So I can come find you. Anyway, I will find you.
I have two locations, one in the Sierra Nevada and then one in Santa Barbara. I have an office there.
Okay. Well, next time I'm on the West Coast, I'll be visiting
Call
you.
Me up.
Absolutely. So sound healing, let's talk about that a little bit, because I've interviewed some sound healers before, and it is just absolutely incredible, the vibration of sound. Talk a little bit about that. Why is it so important as embodied spirits or spiritual beings, as I refer to us, to be tuned in with sound?
I think it's important for us to realize that we're all sound healers, whether we're conscious of it or not. How we use our thoughts that are silent, how we use our words, the music that we listen to, the environments that we live in, and the sounds that are in those environments impact our consciousness, our body, our energy fields, even our belief systems. And so the more conscious and thoughtful we get about what we're exposing ourselves to, the greater an impact it can have in a positive way, helping us shift into the vibrations and the attitudes, the behaviors that we're truly intending on living in on a daily basis. When I make sounds using my actual physical voice, I'm making them in the physical realm, but I'm also conscious of these other parts of myself that exist in higher dimensions. I call it multidimensional awareness. Children have it because they're tapped into this fantasy. We all have, the fantasy world, the imagination world. But when we realize that there are other dimensions that we do exist in, and we can elicit very particular tones, vibrations, energies, consciousness in these higher realms, you essentially become a multidimensional sound-emitting being. So I'll make a tone in the physical, and then I'll make different tones that are harmonic and balanced and bring in coherence in the higher planes, and then I invite the angelic realm to also sing in those higher planes, which then ripples into the physical dimension and helps somebody shift into a higher vibration.
So I understand the multidimensionality of who we are. I know that for myself, I'll speak for myself. I know that I am a small aspect of my greater consciousness, and that I am other places right now throughout the universe doing other work. We could have a whole show on that, right? So what's really fascinating for me is, I understand that it is simply a state of awareness, and that we shift that quickly from one state to the other with the consciousness to do so. When I'm listening to you speak, I am seeing sound as this beautiful, you talk about beds of sound, this beautiful current on which to literally shift, on which to travel into these other dimensions or other states of awareness.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. And our energy fields exist in other dimensions. And what we hold in our energy fields shows up in our mind, our thoughts, emotions, and eventually in our physical body. So if we're using these other dimensions to shift the energy, it's kind of like working with your blueprint. And then as it shifts up high, it reflects and ripples and shifts how we feel.
So I think you just answered my question, but I would imagine that some listeners may think, okay, I'm barely handling this dimension. I'm not concerned about other dimensions right now, right? So why is it important for us to be aware of these other dimensions or realms that you're speaking about and either shift into them or vibrate our consciousness into them and vice versa? How does that help us here?
These other dimensions can actually help support us and change our physical dimensional reality. So in my book, 7 Cups of Consciousness, I talk about how we use these other dimensions to change the physical realm. We don't do anything in the physical dimension to change the physical dimension. We do it up high on a higher floor. So if you are really struggling and you're not feeling supported in your life, imagine some higher floor where you are, where you're supporting you, the angelic realm is supporting you, your spiritual family is supporting you, you have a community that supports you, but most importantly, you're supporting yourself. And then as you connect in with this higher dimensional floor, it starts to reflect into the physical dimension. Now, it might take 2 hours, it might take 2 weeks, it might take 3 months. Time is the variable, but the more you're receiving this experience in this higher realm, that amplifies and accelerates the reflection.
That's absolutely beautiful. So you spoke about an enlightenment experience on a sound table that you have basically been aware, been called to healing your whole life. But can you dive a little deeper for us into your enlightenment experience? What is Aleya Dao's sacred story of consciousness or awakening?
We all have our own enlightenment moments or experiences. The variable is, are we able to sustain the insights that we get? And so in that 30 seconds, or actually it was an hour where I was lying on this sound table, in 30 seconds, my entire consciousness shifted. It was like a flash of light, and I was aware of these other dimensions, and I saw the planet being surrounded with this beautiful lattice grid work of light, and I could feel a presence of angelic ones, guides, beings that held a higher, different consciousness, sending me information and supporting me in looking at the world from a more connected, empowered position. Now, the variable is, that didn't go away. That just kept getting stronger every single day. And so sometimes we'll have these enlightenment moments, and then we forget it. Then we lose it. And so for me, I don't know why I was able to sustain it, but grateful that I did. And now take all of the teachings that continue to amplify in my consciousness and around me coming in from the higher planes and share that with others.
I think that's the key, the sustaining. I believe that many of us get glimpses. And I've had many spiritual experiences, and then I come back more fully into the body. And I think that seems to be more of the reality for most of us embodied spirits here. And I've spoken about that it's the union of the of the spirit and the body, that in that union is really where the juice is. And, we're embodied for a reason. So we don't want to be out of body. We want to be embodied, knowing embodied spirits. But there's that sustaining of the beauty and the love and the peace and the reality of the other realms while embodied. That is the key, and that's the challenge, right?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And there's two concepts that I think about when you're talking about that. And that is that from my perspective, the body has its own consciousness. And we as souls riding in the body have our own consciousness. And the body is also in a process of evolution, awakening, and enlightenment. So the body, we the soul, might get the download or the upgrade and the awareness, but then do we share that with our body? Now, we do a little bit, but if we do it consciously, then the body actually starts moving to that higher frequency as well. It's sort of like giving your horse your upgrade that you just got. So there's that concept or that aspect that we want to take into consideration when we have these enlightenment moments. And then there's the second component where when we forget and remember and forget, we actually, it's part of the enlightenment experience. Every time I forget, when I remember to a deeper degree than the time before. We mind the gap. The forgetting gets shorter and shorter, less and less over time. And so an ascended master will remember their essence, the state of divine oneness, on their inhale. They will forget it on their exhale, and then they will remember it again on their next inhale. A lot of the times we as souls come here into this world and we forget ourselves for 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 60 years, and then when we remember, it's this huge rush. And so in our journey, we want to stop chasing the rush of the remembering, start minding the gap, and remembering ourselves every day when we wake up in the morning, knowing that we're going to forget ourselves a little bit as we go through the day, and then when we remember ourselves again the next morning, we remember it to a deeper degree than the day before.
That is so heartening to think about, remembering on the inhale, forgetting on the exhale, and remembering on the inhale again, minding that gap.
Yeah.
That is powerful. I've written that down. I'm going to paste it on my computer. Listeners, write that down. Remember on the inhale, forget on the exhale, remember on the inhale. What a beautiful, beautiful process. No, I think
or you could just put on your fridge, mind the gap, which is what I do. Yeah, exactly. I went to London and got that sticker, or the magnet rather, and put it on my fridge. So every time I open the refrigerator, which is like 1 or 2 or 3 times a day, I'm like, okay, am I remembering myself now? And then it's only
awesome.
A few hours. And then also we stop beating ourselves up that we forget.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm all for giving ourselves a break, right? I'm all for saying, right, think about, right, how much quicker you remembered than the time that you forgot, right?
Yes.
Now, you spoke about the body having its own consciousness. I want to talk about that for a moment, because when you spoke about that, I thought of Gaia. I thought of the earth and the consciousness of the earth. And I know that the body has an energy to it, but I've never really thought about the body having a consciousness. So now I'm drawing parallels between this beautiful planet and the energy of Gaia within the planet, and all of these little mini bodies, right, that are on it, and
that are hers.
That, right, and that the energy within us, the spirits within us, but that our bodies also have a consciousness. That's really very deep, Aleya. So let's talk about that a little bit, please. The body has its own consciousness.
When I had my enlightenment experience, I was very aware of my soul consciousness, and then I was very aware that there was this body consciousness around me, that it was entirely different than who I am when I'm not in body. It had a different level of consciousness, different attitudes, belief systems, programs, needs. And so the more I explored that, the more I realized that the physical human form that I'm in has this nature spirit that can be very primal. And it literally belongs to Earth, or rather is an expression of Earth. The physical human form is 80% water on a good hydration day. It has minerals and all of the elements of Earth in it. And so when we recognize that Earth is a very wise, conscious being, and she too is going through a process of evolution, and the fastest and most gentle way to evolve is to get information. So what is she going to do? She's going to create these human bodies, and then she's going to invite souls to ride around in her, and she is going to be positively, empathically impacted by all of these souls, billions of us, right, are riding in human forms, and giving her information about who we are, where we're from, what we've mastered, and that actually helps her evolution over time.
There's such a power when we talk about being empowered. I think about that, knowledge is power. Awareness is power, because then we can make conscious choices of how we show up or what we do or what our journey looks like, even to the point of how we are responsible for our own energy bodies and how we share them.
Yes.
So when we think about the body having a consciousness, that brings a whole other layer to that level of responsibility, because we're not just thinking about being embodied spirits and our energy is contained within the body. We are, do you know what I mean? Like we are.
I do. And it's important to, I'm going to dive into that, because we don't want to take responsibility for our body. We want to take responsibility for just the light body, soul, essence, beam of light that we are. And then we want our body to take responsibility for itself, which moves us into a healthy co-creative relationship with our body. Instead of thinking, though, I have to love my body. Well, what if my body loved itself and I love myself, and the two of us are holding this deep inside ourselves, reflecting it upon each other?
Okay, now that's the key to the kingdom. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. Wait, say that again. Listeners, did you hear that?
So I'm going to give an example. A lot of us takes responsibility for loving our body and supporting our body. Or our body takes responsibility for supporting us, the rider. What would happen if we, the soul, riding in the body, are entirely responsible for just supporting our own individual self in our own line of light? I call it the divine line that's on the front of the spine. That's like where your saddle is. It's where you are. And then your body is using all of its creative energy to support itself. So as we hold this inner support in our own divine lines, our body is holding this incredible support in its divine line that runs through the spine. We then reflect this incredible support onto the energetic fields, onto what I call energetic grids, onto our finances and our relationships. So what you hold inside you is what you create in your outer world. That's not a new concept. That's very we all know that on some level. And so taking that personal responsibility deep inside to love the light that flows within you, then invite your body to love its light.
Now, do you believe that we choose our bodies? Do you believe that as souls we have already figured out which body we're going to inhabit and what we're going to do with it? Because there are many schools of thought that this is all predetermined by us before we come.
Yes, that's a deep, meaty question. I love it, and I'm diving into it. So from my perspective, when you come to Earth, Earth assigns you a nature spirit. She says, okay, you want to come journey here. Here's a nature spirit that you can evolve with. And then you go through, Buddhists talk about how you'll sometimes be in animal form, and then eventually you get to a point in your evolution where you become human form. So every time you've come to Earth and journeyed, maybe you were a squirrel, and then you were a bear, and then you were a cheetah, and then you were an elephant, and then you evolved into human form, and now you're in human form with the same nature spirit that has been all of these things. We think about our animal totems and animals that we really have an affinity for. Well, maybe it's because in a previous incarnation, you and your body rode together in that nature spirit form, where you were riding in an eagle, and your body, David, was the eagle. So it's another way that the body gets information about or different aspects of itself, nature kingdom, and then also it shows you how to be here in this world in a nature spirit. Being in a human form is a very advanced experience, right? We have an opposable thumb, and we have a mind that can think about the past and the future. Dolphins and whales do that as well, but they don't have opposable thumbs. Actually, whales do have opposable thumbs, but that's hidden by their withins, which is very interesting. Citation, passion. I won't transgress. But basically, your nature spirit has had many experiences with you riding in it. So that's, so I do believe that we've chosen the nature spirit, but it's because we have a history.
Oh, Aleya, we are transgressing because I can tell you my spiritual journey started with the animal totems, and I know that I have been an incarnation as a whale. I don't know if it's been on this planet, but I know without a doubt that I have incarnated as a whale before. And so we can transgress. And that learning that whales have opposable thumbs, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Yep.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I think they're basically the galactic library. They're the master sound healers on the planet. I think they have the highest level of consciousness, and I'm not a religious person, but if I were to start a religion, it would be called whaleism, where we really honor and respect these incredibly conscious sentient beings that are here holding a very high vibration.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing it back to that, because as we were kind of going through the examples of the animals, I don't think of them in a hierarchical with us on the top. I really think it's just different experiences, without a doubt, and that for me, spirituality is that the more simplistic it is, that the more profound and deep it is. So I think that as humans, we can overcomplicate it and actually diminish the power that many of our other sentient beings on this planet, they've already figured it out.
Yes, they have. They have come before us. And so, the more we can learn from them, the better.
It's interesting because I was thinking just the other day, you mentioned an eagle, and I have a very hard time with, not with heights necessarily, but with falling forward as in a height. Like I could not, without a doubt, regardless of who tried to convince me, I could not jump out of an airplane. I do not want to bungee jump. I don't want to do anything that I'm jumping off something falling forward. And I know other people that would absolutely love that. And I was thinking just the other day, I've never been a bird. I could not have been a bird, because if I was a bird, I would not have that level of discomfort. It is incredibly discomfort. It actually takes me almost completely out of my body, those feelings.
That's actually a beautiful point. I've never thought about it from that perspective, but a way to overcome heights would be to invite your body, nature spirit, I call it the body deva, to go into a higher realm and be an eagle.
Okay, I just got nervous. No.
Yeah, you don't do that. But it's like letting your body remember, or your body could also connect with birds, knowing that birds are an expression of itself. You could also go in and unpack the fear. Is it because you don't have a sense of control, right? Anytime we're afraid of something, we want to see what is the need that's not getting met, then increase the need inside ourselves instead of needing it in our outer environment.
That's a lot of work, and I know that there's real depth in that and real knowledge in that. I was much more comfortable just thinking I've just never incarnated as a bird, so I don't know how to do that flying forward thing. But
yeah, moving on.
Can we just let me stay there in my little space?
Definitely. I will hold a safe and loving space for you on that one. I don't like heights that much either.
Okay, good. Because I've overcome a lot in this incarnation. Let me just hold on to that. I'd rather go swim in the ocean. I'll go swim in the ocean. I'll be happier.
Come swimming. I'm coming to Florida, and I'm doing a 3-day or 2-day class in Miami, and then 2 days swimming with dolphins in Bimini. We hope. You never know if they're going to appear.
Well, we'll talk off air because I'm just north of Miami, so we'll talk off air. That's awesome. Listeners, I wasn't going to mention this, but Aleya is and she's now my new best friend. We just found out we have the same birth date. So we found that out right before we went on the air. So we're both, I'll just share, we're both September 27th is our birth date, and I've only met one other person that shared the actual day of birth. And Aleya, that is now you're the second, and I'm very honored to share my birthday with you.
As am I. Thank you.
This has been an incredible conversation. Without a doubt, I am so thrilled that we're connected. I'm so thrilled that you've joined me here and our listeners on Sacred Stories. Take a moment, if you would, please, and share a little bit more about the work you do and how our listeners can find you and connect with you also.
Every day I tune into what I call the energetic weather, and I record a meditation that speaks to the energy that's coming onto the planet that can actually help us in staying awake or remembering ourselves to a deeper degree and spiritually growing, evolving, holding a higher consciousness, a more empowered way of being, less reactive, more joyful. And then every 3 weeks, and I email those daily cups of consciousness to subscribers all over the world. Every 3 weeks, I do a live and recorded online energy balancing session over the internet and over the phone, and those are called the Tall Cups of Consciousness. And I have 8 music albums of sound healing. They're available on Amazon at my website, and Sounds True also released one of them. And then I also have a book called The 7 Cups of Consciousness that was released by New World Library, all about 7 basically concepts that teach you how to use the higher realms to shift your current reality and clearing on any blocks, any belief systems that no longer serve you. So that's me in a nutshell.
The work that you do is expansive. It's extensive. One thing that Aleya didn't share, she has over 1,500 recordings. And I said, you'd have to be 105 to record that many, and she's not. So you're bringing such incredible wisdom and healing and just beautiful energy to this dimension, Aleya Dao. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for the work that you do.
Well, thank you so much. It's really an honor to connect with you.
Yeah, this has been fun. We will do this again. Listeners, Aleya Dao, 7 Cups of Consciousness, Sound Healer, Soul Intuitive, Spiritual Guide. I encourage you to aleyadao.com. I encourage you to look up Aleya. I will be in touch with Aleya. And I encourage you to join us again for our next Sacred Stories. Subscribe to our podcast, like, share, let everyone know about the beautiful conversations that are happening here on Sacred Stories Podcast.